Yeah.
Thanks, pal. Who's got our next question?
Hello, you two. My name's Logan. I recently rewatched The Shark is Working, the documentary that was made a number of years ago. And Dreyfus, I know that Robert would egg you on the set about, can you do a certain number of push-ups? So my question is, can you do 20 good push-ups?
Yes. And the only way you'll find out about it is to pay me $100 per push-up.
All right, who's
He
next?
said to me once, we were sitting at the top of the Orca, and Robert turned to me and said, "You can't jump from this point into the water." And I could. I mean, I could. I was a good swimmer. But if Robert said I couldn't, I couldn't. And I just, you know, gave it over to him. And I always just, he had my number, you know? And while I'm acting with him and admiring the hell out of this great actor and great writer, he had my number. So he was trying to make his way down the gangplank, and he says to me, "Help me out, Richard." And he wanted me to take his drink from him. And I said, "You really want me to help you out?" He says, "Yeah." I took his drink and I threw it into the water. And every drinker on that crew went, "Ooh." So he did stuff to me. But there was no feud. It was one day. And
Okay, what's your name? What's your question?
Hi, my name is Samantha. Jaws was one of the very first scary movies I ever saw, and it scared the living crap out of me. I was like 11 or 12. But my question for you is, the night that you were shooting on the Orca where you're singing Show Me the Way to Go Home, did you know that there was a meteor shower happening at the same time? And did you know how scary the story of the Indianapolis was?
I didn't know there was a meteor shower until this minute.
You can actually see it on the screen.
Well, and yet I thought that was special effects. And what was the other part of it?
Did you know that how scary the story of the Indianapolis was?
Oh, yes. Well, when you hear the details of that story, you can't help but be affected by it. And there is an addenda to that story, which is that a 12-year-old boy, seeing the film, and he did some research and found out that that captain, who had done nothing wrong, had been blamed by the Navy for the whole thing. And he got a petition up, and he had hundreds and ultimately thousands of people in his corner fighting for that captain's reputation, which they gave him back. The Navy gave him back his rep. And that would never have happened without the film and without Stephen. Wouldn't have happened.
Thank you.
Wow.
All right. Next question.
Hi there, my name is Matt, and I had a question for both of y'all. Roy Scheider's character on Jaws, in the beginning, he knows about Jaws being in the water and doesn't tell anybody because of all the pressure, and then later the mother comes and slaps him in the face during that scene. And I wondered, for each of you, if you were in his character Brody's place, what would you have done differently to try to change the outcome, if anything?
I would have done whatever the script said. For sure.
And I would have said whatever would make me a hero later.
It's funny.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question.
I am Philip. What are your thoughts on the control that license holders have on our popular mythology?
On our what?
Our popular, like, current mythology as a culture.
Well, let's put it this way. The Patent Office is the only office that is mentioned in the Constitution. So it was important to somebody, and the people who founded the country knew that they were going to succeed as a society only one way, and that was to allow the creative community to operate with some sense of freedom and some sense of reward. If you're an innovator and you get stolen away from you, whatever your reward should be, you're not going to work very hard. But in America, you learn that there is an honor to creative minds, and they get to keep their reward. And it's important.
And in many ways, I think it's changing in the sense because you're going to see it's 75 years now since Mickey Mouse started and everything, and these things are going to become public domain. And it's going to be fascinating and really interesting with AI, ChatGPT, or whatever. It's going to be fascinating how people use these things that we've always associated them as being, whether it's a cartoon, because they can make them live action now, do anything they want. It'll really test the American creative psyche to see where this goes. I'm kind of interested in that.
And most people think that the more money you have and the bigger, deeper pockets you have, you're going to win. And the fact is, if you keep control over your creation, you can't lose.
I apologize, we've gone past our allotted time, but I would like to ask our guests if they would have one last thought before we wrap this up for the afternoon.
You know, you asked that question, and I actually thought about, what did I first learn when I wanted to change my life and become a producer, and I became an executive at 20th Century Fox? And this is a true story. A guy said to me before, one of the first days I was there, he says, you know, you can't say shit on television. And I thought about it for a long time, and I said, why? Why can't you say shit on television? And he said, because they have enough shit on television. True story. And it made me just start to think about how to use imagination, how I wanted to tell a story or help a writer, creator, producer tell it. And I was so blessed to have been in this movie. Gave me a little bit of a presence. And we are truly lucky and blessed. I think about what I learned in kindergarten, and it was, by the inch, life is a cinch. By the yard, exceedingly hard. And I try to follow that.
And Richard, final thoughts?
If we're careful and strong and smart, and we protect ourselves and what we've created here, we are God's gift to governance and the only balanced and free press, and we believe in the unknown future being worthy of discovery. And right now, we don't have the courage to remind ourselves that there's no one in Washington who we work for. They work for us, and everyone seems to have forgotten that. And we've raised an enormous generation of cowards.
All right, once again, let's give a nice Kansas City thank you to Richard Dreyfus and Jeffrey Kramer.